I want to walk you through the parts of the medulla oblongata and sort of how they regulate different aspects. So remember, the medulla oblongata is part of the brainstem, and it's at the very bottom of the brainstem, closest to the spinal cord. Okay, and it's the most primitive in that it is what's regulating a lot of just what's keeping you alive and conscious. So there are a few different parts of the medulla oblongata, different nuclei that I want to make sure that we go over. So the first is going to be the kind of extends down pretty far. These regions here called the reticular formation. The reticular formation is going to be found all the way through the brainstem, and its main function is again going to be keeping you conscious and alert. And it does so in different ways based on different functions that we see from each part of the brainstem. So the brainstem of the medulla oblongata, what we have are kind of two little regions here. Okay, so just draw two little nuclei. One is going to be the cardiovascular center. Vascular center. And the respiratory center. These are going to be controlling things like breathing rate, and just kind of establishing it, as well as, again, the cardiovascular rate, heart rate, blood pressure, all those sorts of things, right? So if I'm staying conscious, right, when I'm awake, my blood pressure has to go up, my heart has to beat faster. When I'm sleeping, I'm breathing differently than when I'm awake and conscious. So we're going to have those two structures there. We're also going to have sitting kind of next to it, kind of lower, we're going to have what are called the olivary nucleus. So the olivary nucleus is going to be involved in motor, and it's going to communicate up through the pons up to the cerebellum and coordinating what motor functions we have. This olivary nucleus works alongside two other structures called the nucleus cuneatus and the nucleus gracilis. These are going to be communicating things like touch and proprioception, as part of the dorsal column. And these will again be communicated up to the thalamus, to the brain, to tell us where our body's position is, what we're touching, what we're feeling, and a few other senses as well. I hope this kind of helps you orient yourself within the medulla oblongata. What I recommend is think about what are these sections first, and then think about which cranial nerves go into them second. That tends to help a little bit with organizing the difference between what is associated with just the cranial nerve and what's associated with the nucleus itself. We'll talk about cranial nerves